Imagine if you didn't raise your hand.
Mm,
What do you think? You know what I
I
mean?
do.
It takes guts. It takes guts to raise your hand, and sometimes when we raise our hands, we have no idea what we're raising our hands to.
I love that point. And absolutely, I reflect on that quite a bit. And so I thought, you know what? This is the time, right? If there's any chance I'm going to take
Mhm.
right now where I don't have to feel like I'm playing it safe and I'm in this organization, like I said, everyone knows me, it was taking the chance again to say, I'm betting that any healthcare organization that I work for, my skills are transferable. That I'm going to be,
Mhm.
that I will be meaningful, my talents and my worth everywhere I go, right? Any place I am in healthcare.
Welcome to Negotiation Mastery with Dr. Gloria Esomeme. This is the go to podcast for professional women across the world who are ready to step up and secure the career and benefits they truly deserve. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Esomeme. I'm board certified in internal medicine. I have a master's in global health and a PhD in health services policy and management. I am a keynote speaker and negotiation coach. I'm here to give you the tools to negotiate with confidence and authenticity. Each episode features real world strategies, powerful stories, and practical tools to help you ask for more, lead with impact, and create the life that reflects your worth. You hear from accomplished women across industries who share their career journeys, negotiate wins, and lessons learned along the way. Today, I have Miss Mandy Crosby, who is an executive strategy consultant. She specializes in health IT innovation and health systems transformation. She has over 12 years of experience across multiple US health systems. Mandy holds a master's in management and strategic leadership, and she is certified as a health and life coach. As a mentor and advocate for women in leadership, Mandy is passionate about empowering women to own their voice, lead confidently, and navigate challenges authentically. In this episode, she shares her journey of self advocacy and negotiation mastery. I am so excited to have you, Mandy.
Thank you, Dr. Gloria. So happy to be here. Amazing intro. Thank you.
Of course. So let's just jump right in. Do you mind sharing your career trajectory? What made you choose this career and how you got to this point?
Yes, absolutely. So I actually started in the healthcare field when I was 18 years old. I was
Oh,
a
wow.
medical assistant, a client service, a clinical associate at a physician office. And I really loved giving clinical care for patients for years. And it was just something that really about giving back, right? That relationship with your patients, that care, that empathy there. And then we went live on a healthcare system, IT healthcare system, and I loved that part of it. It was kind of where the innovation of the software met the clinical delivery of care, and that just inspired me. I really took off from there in the healthcare IT. I like to joke with my clinical folks that I joined the dark side. I went to the IT side of things, but to bring that clinical aspect. So I've really been in healthcare most of my life. My grandmother, my mother were in healthcare as well, and just inspired me to do what I do today. So I've grown over the years in all facets of healthcare.
That is so interesting. I also did the dark side of healthcare for a while. So between while I was in my PhD program, I used to travel like during summers. I would travel and be like I'm a credentialed trainer. I would teach
Mm,
physicians how to use health IT, like
yes.
Epic, Center, and I would also do go live support. How amazing!
Yes.
And then so you did that, and then what was the journey from being a medical assistant to now being a strategic coach for leadership strategic coach for women?
Yes, great question. I love telling this story because it really is cool how women in general can really grow their career in healthcare. So I started as a medical assistant. I was working at family offices, supporting my physicians, and Epic actually was the software that came in. We were on paper charts, believe it or not, like early 2000s, right? And they said, hey, we got this software. We want your clinic to be the first to go live. So I raised my hand and said, hey, I'd like to be a super user. Let me do this, right? And that is really where they noticed a talent. I didn't realize even at the time. They're like, you realize you're like an analyst. Like, you really get this. You should join the team. And I became a build analyst. I actually went to Epic. I got certified. I started building the software and implementing it. We did large mergers and acquisitions across West Michigan. And I was a build analyst and support, right? So we built the software, we supported the clinics. And I realized in those moments that that's really where my niche was, is really where like strategy meets the humanity, right, in healthcare. And I grew in that role. I became a lead, I became a supervisor, I was a lead project manager. And in all of those adventures, and going back to school and everything that I did during that time, I realized, Dr. Gloria, that that really is the niche of understanding the empathy of it, right? Like the emotional intelligence. It wasn't just building software. It wasn't just supporting IT. We were impacting the delivery of care. And I realized I had a knack for that. That's why I joined the world of consulting, because I wanted to spread that across a broader audience, not just one healthcare system. I'm like, I can teach them some things, right? Like, I know these workflows and I can really support them at a higher level. Let me get ahead of it before we get too far down the path with these workflows and, all the frustrations that can happen from a software go live. It sounds like you're well aware of that. So every time I found myself sitting in the office with like the president of the hospitals and talking about strategy and how do we roll this out. So it was very exciting. So it was definitely a journey from a medical assistant to build analyst to project manager, to strategist. So really, really cool opportunities in the healthcare field for sure.
Wow. So what I heard you say was that when Epic came to your hospital, you raised your hand and said, "Here I am."
I did.
So just imagine if you didn't raise your hand.
Mm,
What do you think? You know what I
I
mean?
do.
It takes guts. It takes guts to raise your hand, and sometimes when we raise our hands, we have no idea what we're raising our hands to.
I love that point. And absolutely, I reflect on that quite a bit. Every single step in my journey, when I look back, and I actually even remember the office manager that empowered me to do that, right? Maureen Van
Mhm.
Kloppenberg, I'll give her a shout out, because when I raised my hand to her and I said, hey, I'd like to try this. Like, let me take a chance on myself. Let me bet on myself. The doors that opened for me, right? And what it taught me is that when you do bet on yourself every single time, no matter what, good or bad, it comes up aces because you're learning and you're growing. And so I took that chance. And I still remember the feeling when I was walking up these long stairs the first day as an analyst. And I thought, can I do this? Like, did I really do this? Right. And it took everything from just taking that chance. And that's absolutely the point. Like, anytime there's an opportunity like that, to not hold yourself back, right? To say, you know
Right.
what, I'm gonna bet on myself here and let me try it.
Yeah.
Let me try it.
Yeah. What's the worst that could
What's the
happen?
worst
I'll
that could
feel.
happen?
I can always go back to being an Amy.
Always go back.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. There's a point you made. I'll come back to that point afterwards. It's about, you talked about Maureen kind of
Yes.
supporting you. I'll come back to that. But what I really want to learn is, so I've gotten the journey. You were an MA and then you raised your hand and then you were sent to Epic. You got the training because you said yes, you got more training, but you were still working for a health system. So
Mhm.
how did you transition from being with one health system to you having your own, being a consultant and having your own business?
Yeah. So it was years in an own health system, and I felt very safe in the health system, right? Because everybody knew me. You build your
Of course.
reputation, you feel comfortable, and you can just be comfortable going on that leadership path. I had some personal life changes at that time, when I decided to consult. My daughter, who is now going to be 22 this year, was graduating high school and going off on her own. And so I thought, you know what? This is the time, right? If there's any chance I'm going to take right now where I don't have to feel like I'm playing it safe and I'm in this organization, like I said, everyone knows me, it was taking the chance again to say, I'm betting that any healthcare organization that I work for, my skills are transferable. That I'm going to be
Mm,
that I will be meaningful, my talents and my worth everywhere I go, right? And so I thought, you know what? This is the time, right? If there's any chance I'm going to take
mm,
right now where I don't have to feel like I'm playing it safe and I'm in this organization, like I said, everyone knows me, it was taking the chance again to say, I'm betting that any healthcare organization that I work for, my skills are transferable. That I'm going to be
mm.
that I will be meaningful, my talents and my worth everywhere I go. Any place I am in healthcare. And that was really scary. I want to be very transparent. When you go out and consult, it is really truly betting on yourself solely every time. There's nothing else but you backing you, right? And so when I first threw my hat in the ring in my very first large project, I was definitely nervous. I still remember just like the anxiety and feverishly being like, okay, I can do this. Like, and then once I settled in a couple months, I'm like, yeah, this they know you take you wherever you go, right? So when
You
you have
do.
that confidence and being able to branch out, and then I realized, wow, I can be impactful at these organizations. I don't have to be super tied to the politics here. I can really
Mm,
help, right? Because now I have this contract, I'm here for duration of implementation or whatever their need is, and I can go help somebody else. And then I can go help somebody else. So it was very inspiring for me because it felt like I could really kind of spread my knowledge in a more broad audience. And so that was really the journey to making that decision, and super grateful that I have.
huh. That is interesting. So you were with your health system, and then when your daughter was graduating high school, and then you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do my own thing."
Yes.
Was it hard getting your first contract? How did you go about getting the first contract?
Yes, I worked with this is a funny story actually. I worked with a consulting company, one of a large consulting company when I first was venturing out. And they really helped me. They taught me the game, if you will, right? Of how to identify health systems that are in need. I have what I used to call an agent, which is just a handler, somebody that really advocated for me, but also taught me how to advocate for myself, because that's a
Mm,
skill that I didn't necessarily have being in a health system for so long, where everybody knows you and you feel like you're growing naturally, right? You're getting promoted and you kind of
right.
expect it, but that's not how it is when you're out in your contracting and you're negotiating for yourself. So that was my entry into contracting. So I really learned from and I wish I could remember the proper title for them. It was like a CED or something like that, but they really helped me learn how to identify health systems in need and how to advocate for myself as a consultant. So I had a bridge, into that world.
Right. So if you work as a consultant, I want to believe that you have to negotiate multiple times with the health systems. Sometimes you may have to negotiate, well, I think all the time we negotiate our pay, the hours we
Mm,
put in, the deliverables, and the whole package we're offering, and they're asking for us.
yeah.
And negotiation involves tough conversations. So, what's the toughest conversation you've ever had to initiate, and how did you prepare for it?
Yes, yes. So I do. I will say that I do have to negotiate all the time. Every contract, you don't really know, right? Like if they're what they're trying to pay you, your worth. Do they know it? You're going to go back and forth with
Mm,
that. So for me, it's important to go into those conversations in my mind with my why and my worthiness always at my core. I know and I have practice and expectation of what I want when I come to the table, what I know that I deserve, I should say. And then a bottom line, right? I know where my line is. And so if it gets to the point where it's like, "Oh no, this, that's kind of higher than we were anticipating or maybe a different level of need." That's okay. That's okay. It's no big deal. Then maybe this wasn't the opportunity for me, and I will go and find one that is, right? And that's fine. Not everybody is going to be wanting the level that I can give, or maybe looking for a different opportunity, but you have to be okay with that when you're consulting, because you have to know your worth. You don't want to just take anything. You know what you bring to the table, especially as like and you're in the C-suite and you're advising, like there are lines that you have to come in knowing. So those are always tough conversations, but I find that in leadership or in negotiation, honesty and truth across the board, even if it's a hard truth, right? Even if it's to say, and as women, sometimes I notice some of my colleagues and friends that do struggle with saying no unapologetically, no, thank you. And we have to do that. It's just simply that it's okay if it doesn't work out. And so, just preparing yourself for your why, knowing your worth, I think is what really helps in those situations.
You know what? I agree with you 100%. Like before any negotiation is to know what you bring to the table.
Mm,
Because when you share what you bring to the table, it gives you the power to
yes.
negotiate. And sometimes, sometimes there is that imposter syndrome
Mm,
where you still think of yourself as the you of 10, 20 years back, and then you
yes.
want to negotiate based on that position and that power, but you've evolved over years.
Yes.
Do you have any real life story of you saying no to one organization? You don't have to call your name. Do you have any real life
Oh,
story, or
sure.
how they took the no, or how you went,
Yes, yes.
or if they called you back?
I
Yeah.
do, absolutely. This wasn't that long ago, actually, before the contract I have now. Because generally speaking, when you're moving from one contract to another, you know your contract will come to an end soon. So you start putting your feelers out, right? You start seeing what other organizations are interested and potentially wanting to work with you. So I had one particular health system. They really wanted to work with me. They saw my experience, and we were going really back and forth on the pay. That is something that, again, as women, sometimes we hesitate to talk about is money. It is okay. It's not a
Yeah.
bad word. It's important to talk about, especially when you're going out there negotiating for your salary and for your livelihood, right? So we went back and forth several times, and they really wanted me essentially to take a step down in a title, because so they were trying to meet me, but they were not getting to my bottom line. And it was a very tough back and forth. It was something that I was very interested in, though. I want to be clear, I was interested in doing this project because it was a cool opportunity. So even for me, there was a small battle there internally, right? But
Yeah.
again, I knew my why, I knew my worth, and my bottom line. So when we had the final conversation, I just had to say, again, very straightforward and boldly, right? It seems as if that this will not be a fit right now, and that's okay. If there is an opportunity in the future that suits what I bring to
Mm.
the table and what I'm looking for, please contact me at that time. Otherwise, I wish you all of the luck in finding this position that you're looking for. So I think that's key, right? Is to hold the line, be honest. You can be kind. It doesn't have to be tough or mean. Sometimes people think that's just you have to. It's okay. It's okay. It's just not for me right now. And if there is,
Yeah.
you know where to find me, and that was it. I find that to be actually easier and easier every time. That's for sure.
You know what? I love how you close the door with kindness.
Mm,
You
yeah,
didn't close the door because you never can tell. Maybe in a year, man, they will be having a different conversation. They might call you back.
right, you never
You
know.
know.
Yep. Yep. That's something else too. I think it's important to highlight when you're negotiating, especially in situations as a contractor, is you never want to close a door or burn a bridge or whatever analogy you want to put in there. You always leave it open ended, very respectful, and you can be. Each and every time, each and every conversation, you absolutely can be. And like you said, you never know. I always say healthcare is such a small world, and I really mean that globally. I bet if you and I had an offline conversation, we could find a connection just because we've been in healthcare
Oh, for
together,
sure,
right?
for
It's
sure.
just it's a small, small world, and everybody really, truly, oh yes, I worked there. I worked for that system. I know so and so, and it can literally be east to west coast. So just being conscious
Correct.
of that each and every time, for sure. Handle that with grace, absolutely.
So I have another. Since we talked about pay and salary, so I have a. So have you faced any challenge where there's a pay gap? There's a gap in genders where a man goes in, he gets a certain quote, and then you go in, you're getting something different. Is that something you've experienced, and how did you handle that if you have experienced it?
Yeah, good question. I love these conversations, Dr. Gloria. It is so important and so meaningful to me. So I'm just so grateful for this. So yes, absolutely. So here's where I have I advocate for women to do your homework, do your homework, do your homework. So anytime I'm going to the table, I look at that. You can find that online. Chat GPT is amazing. Get as much detail as you can about that position, that salary, what men and women are getting paid. So I do that ahead of time because when I go to the table, I want to know, exactly what's being made so I know how to advocate for myself. I have early in my career, I did not realize that, right? I'm feeling just grateful for my raises and my 3 and 4%. And thank you so much. And, you have that kind of mentality because we're taught that as women, we're taught that, right? To be grateful for what we're given and all that kind of stuff. So, what I looked around though, and I realized my colleagues, a lot of organizations, by the way, will have you believe that that's like an improper conversation to have is salary because they don't want to have that, competition. That's just not true. I want everybody to know that women, please understand it's not true. You can ask and advocate inappropriately. I'm not saying to be inappropriate with the questions because not everybody likes to have that. But it was important to me to know. And a lot of my male counterparts early on we're getting a little bit higher pay raises and pay right away, just out of the gate. And so I learned quickly, you need to empower yourself with that knowledge. So you, again, that line, right? What is my line? What is my expectation? Know that way nobody can play with you. And that's the truth. You really got to advocate and know what that salary range is for men and women.
Because people say, "Oh, do not share your salary." So who are we protecting? Are we protecting ourselves when we don't share, or are we protecting our employers? So, like you said, you don't want to be tacky. You don't want to
Right.
just see someone the first time. You're like, "Oh," but at
What
the
do you
same
make
time,
it?
when they say do not discuss your salary, why? It's all that why. It's a guiding
Mm,
force. When you know the why, do not discuss your salary. Why?
yes,
You know, just
absolutely.
so you can play us. But
That's correct.
yes,
And even amongst women, I really feel like when we get together, we can have these conversations. I recently joined a group called Women in Healthcare, the Michigan chapter. So I'm looking to be a mentor potentially on their board. And what I really would love to do as part of those conversations with young women in the community is to empower them to have those conversations, talk to each other, talk to women leaders when you're going into these fields. I've had incredible luck with great women leaders in my healthcare IT career. That's not super common because it's obviously male dominated in IT, but they have
right.
helped me advocate and they have told me, no, you go back and you negotiate more when I would have taken less. And so it's important that we have those conversations with each other, especially amongst women, so we can feel empowered to do so. Because sometimes that's all we need as another woman to say, listen, go get it. You deserve it because
Yeah,
we are not
yeah,
taught to
yeah,
just do
yeah.
that boldly.
So that's kind of like a sisterhood.
Mm,
Um, let me take this. Let me twist. Let me bring a twist to this
okay.
question. So women, I don't know where this came from. If it's men who made women, or we're just women. Some women are wired like that. Whatever. There's this tendency for women to compete with each other. Right. And initially you talked about your supervisor, Maureen, who
Mhm.
was kind enough to say, "Hey, I'll support you to go through this process." So have you ever felt pressure to compete with other women, and how do you move past that?
Yes. So I want to answer this very honestly. And I know a lot of women do. And I have friends even that have had interactions and sort of struggles with maybe women sizing each other up instead of, looking at each other as. So I'm going to say this. I want to give credit to Tasha Smith. She was interviewed. She's an incredible actress. And she said this and it stuck with me. We need to be in community with each other, not competition, right? And I know a lot of women have
Right.
experienced that competition with each other, or again, the sizing up or feeling like, almost like a scarcity mindset because there's not a lot of women in spaces. So sometimes you feel like you have to, be that lead to compete. And I'm very sincere when I'm answering this question. I have sincerely never felt that way. I feel like I have been very fortunate again to have the Maureen's of the world, to have all of the leaders I've had. I had another manager after that, Cecilia. I've had another director, Barb. I had another director, Stephanie. All these incredible leader women who showed me
Mm-hmm.
what it meant to sort of like lead me, to pull me along with them, to lift as they climbed. I was part of that. So they really showed me how to do that for other women, right? That anytime we onboarded somebody right out of college, a young woman, the first thing I wanted to do, and maybe that's because it's partly my calling, is pour into her. I wanted her to feel empowered. I wanted her to know that there is no limits on anything that we can do, because of my path was so different and interesting. And I'm like, you are already ahead of the game. You're coming out of college and do a great career. Listen, let me show you. Let me show you some game that I've learned, right? And so for me, I truly haven't felt that way. Again, I don't know if it's because I've been fortunate to have women leaders as examples for me, but I've definitely seen it.
Mhm.
I've definitely seen it. And I agree with you that sometimes it is almost culturally has educated us as women that that's how we need to be with each other. Almost like immediately
Right.
that judgment or sizing up of. And so I always like to lead with, how can I help? How can I support? How can I advocate? Instead of, if that person is coming after me, no one else's shine is going to dim yours. Let's all be super bright, right? And so that's kind of how I go into life, really, quite frankly, every situation I
You,
can.
you know, you know what, Mandy? The sky can handle many
Many
stars. You don't have
stars.
to. Me taking away your shine doesn't make me shine more. We
Mhm.
can all shine brightly,
Yes, yes.
So, but this last, you dropped so many gems in this last answer that you gave. You talked about what you do as a calling. It's not common to hear that people say, oh, "Well, this is what I enjoy doing," but saying it's a calling.
Mhm.
So, was there a moment you realized that this was my calling? And how did you come up with that idea of a calling? Because so many people want to have callings, they don't know, no one's calling them, or maybe they're calling them, they're not hearing. So, so if you can help somebody out
So
there.
great. Yes, yes, yes. So it took me a while to understand that. I will be honest here. E- every position that I've been in, now that I am in my 40s, when I reflect back, every part of my journey, I'm always called, like you said, to help a young women, to really to get them in rooms that maybe I had to kick down the door to get into, to make sure I'm speaking their name and giving them a voice. And it happened all along my journey, when I was a medical assistant, when I became an analyst, as a lead on a team role, definitely in the consulting space. I literally just had a conversation last week with this young project manager, a young woman who's incredible. She is incredible talent. And I noticed that she kind of downplays that, right? Just a little bit
Mm,
self-deprecating, and just I picked it up on a few meetings. So we just had a great conversation. We were meeting about a work-related concern, and I talked to her and I said, "Hey, have you thought about the next phase of your journey? What does that look like for you?" And I just again poured into her and told her, "Listen, you're amazing. Don't sell yourself short. What is your goals?" And we had this conversation, and all of those in the recent years, I've realized that's no matter what position I'm in, Dr. Gloria, that's what I end up doing. I end up seeing that and noticing it and wanting to bring women along and put them at the table and promote them. And I think what people need to learn here, I love this, is that it doesn't matter where you are or what you're working. I think people equate their career to their calling. And sometimes you can be in a
mm,
completely different career, but you can be enacting your calling while you're doing something completely different. I'm in healthcare IT. I'm doing strategy. I'm coaching on implementations and hardware and software. I'm dealing with those kind of things that are very, black and white in the box IT. Yet I'm empowering and pouring into women all of the time. And so for me, that's my calling. Whatever my career ends up being, or whatever I do, in general, maybe just to support this life, is I'm going to help women no matter where I'm at. It doesn't matter. That's how I think what your calling is. Like, what do you find yourself doing all the
right.
time? What do you find yourself drawn to no matter
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
So irrespective of the field, just what you enjoy, what's the underlying thing you enjoy doing,
Mm.
irrespective of the field. Like, so I'll just to give you an example of my own
Yes.
experience. I'm a doctor, but I'm also, I know I've been called to be a coach. I've
Mhm.
been called to support people. I've been called to pour shine, just to make people feel better about themselves, pull out their strengths. So I'm in the clinic. My patients are like, "Oh, thank you so much. My AFib, no one ever diagnosed it. You listen to my heart the first time and I heard it. I'm like, yeah. But a patient comes in and says, hey, doctor, I didn't really want to be a nurse, but after talking to you, I've gone to register. I'm like, yes, that makes me really,
Yes, yes,
it makes me really happy, right? So I hear what you're saying, where because I could be a doctor and that could be my calling, just making people feel
mhm,
healed. Like you come in with whatever I treat you, I feel happy. I
yes,
think it's an honor. It's one
yes,
of the greatest honors of my life. However, what fills my cup, that even when I care for patients, even when it's difficult, I don't mind going every day, is the other thing that I add to it, like
yes,
the extra that makes me an extraordinary doctor. Not just being a doctor, I add extra to it. So I completely agree with you.
yes, it is.
So for women, you mentor women, right? And so for women to step into their power, some difficult conversations have to be had. And some of those conversations might have to be with themselves. Because like someone like
Mm,
you had to have that conversation with yourself. I've been doing this, I've been providing this service at this level. I think it's time for me to scale up. Okay, what are my fears? But so what advice would you give to a woman who's gearing up to have a difficult conversation right now?
yes, yes. Great, great, great conversation, Dr. Gloria. I cannot tell you how thrilled I am just to be talking about this, to share with other women. I truly just want to say that each and every time. I know I just feel so grateful. So, yes, women in general, and I think for me, it is that why of worthiness. It always comes back to that, right? Because we have fears, we've been taught actually to have those fears. Fears will hold us back. We kind of can bet on those a lot of the times. For me, I call it shining the light in the dark place. I have this conversation with my best friend pretty regularly. When something feels scary, or it feels like you can't take that next step, or this is going to be really tough, why? Why? Let's play the game worst case scenario. Shine that light, take that light and shine it in the darkest place. Again, having that conversation with yourself. What is it specifically that really is holding me back in this moment? What is it specifically that I'm really afraid of in this moment? Once you can lighten that for yourself and you see what it is, giving it, looking at it and saying, that's okay. That's not so bad. I can handle that. I've been through worse. I've been through harder. I can have this conversation. And then I think practicing is really important, not to be robotic, not to, have, again, a robotic perspective, but actually to feel really confident in your voice. I think when you know your why, your voice is very clear. Physician leaders across the board, to say no to really hard things. They're going to want magic when you implement a software. They're going to want things to happen automatically for them when it comes to abstraction from old, data from an old system to a new system. Having to say no, just being honest and transparent, those things are really hard. So coming to the table honestly as your full self, again, knowing your why, shining the light on that fear, rehearsing that, looking at yourself and having the confidence, it really makes all the difference in the world when you're showing up and having those hard conversations. So do not be afraid to shine the light for yourself. Have that conversation with yourself. Be realistic of your why, and then you can show up authentically.
So the first thing is to know. So if you're going to have a hard conversation, the first thing is to know your why. So if you're going to go ask for a pay increase, so why do I want a pay increase?
Right.
Or if you want to go ask for a new position, is why do I want that position? And then practice, 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 practice.
Yes.
Excellent. There's
Yes.
something you said, because I've done go lives. And I feel sad because I'm a physician, but I'll say it all the same. Physicians can be difficult during go lives. Someone who's been so sweet, all of a sudden you see the meanest side of that person because of the pressure of learning something new. Some, like before, we there were times it was paper. We transitioned from paper to EHRs, and now people go from like easier systems they've used for years, they're used to it, and then they bring something that's a little bit more complex. So I saw there was a quote you wrote somewhere about either it has something with calmness and chaos. So either you do it
Mm,
now with calmness or you accept chaos. How do you use that quote? How do you bring reality to that quote during tough situations,
yes.
choosing calmness over chaos?
Yes. So I'm very passionate about this, especially with implementations that go live. It is the folks do not, especially in today's world, and I'm sure you've experienced this in healthcare as a physician who supported an IT. everybody wants to just slam in the software. They just want to bring everybody live and think about workflow and impact later, because you can, like you said, we're going from one EHR to another now. And so technically you can do it. And I talk about preparedness and readiness too, because you can be technically ready and not prepared at all. And that the reason for that is because you were not intentional about digging into that, again, shining a light, because those workflows get exposed, right? Those workarounds, those things that you've done in that old system that you're comfortable with. Day one of go live, if you haven't figured that out, if you haven't had those hard conversations during a calm time of preparedness and preparation for go live, you will have to have it during the chaotic time of using a brand new software that you've never touched. And now we have to figure out this workflow. Now we have to discuss how we're going to get these referrals over across the system for somebody who is like a high priority cancer patient, and we didn't have that conversation. That happens all of the time. And so I'm very passionate, as you can hear my response to this question, about doing that hard work up front. And it does transfer to a lot of areas of life, right? It is
Even
transferable.
that's what I was just about to say. I was waiting to tell you because all you when you were talking, it was just I just had like light bulbs just going off because it's not just implementation of health systems of health IT systems or work. It's also life, like the calm times of our lives. That's when we develop skills that when there's chaos, then we can reach into our toolbox and then bring out those skills we've kept in there.
Yes, it's so true. It's almost like what we were saying in preparation for a negotiation, right? Have that hard conversation with yourself in preparation. Do that work up front while it's calm and it's just you and you can have a moment. That way, when it comes to game time, you're ready for it. And that's the same strategy when you're implementing that software. Let's talk about it. Like, tell me what you do today. And I just don't want the office manager to tell me, or maybe even a physician. You need to be there and sit there and watch, because you go, oh, nobody mentioned that. That's interesting. Oh, you do that on the side back there. Okay, that's going to be impactful, right? So it's very important to be engaged and to get down into those details, or you're going to have to, right? It's one or the other. You can't ignore it. So that's a big, yeah.
So this is my question for you, Mandy. So how do you, so in times of calm, how do you personally prepare for cares? Just in case there's a woman out there who's listening who is still growing her career. We all are growing our career. So
Yeah.
just something you can all learn and say, okay, right now there's no craziness in my life. I'm on the smooth kill. So what tools, what tools do you do? How do you do personally that
Yeah.
we can learn?
Yes, yes. So, oh gosh, many things. And I think very typical things that folks will say all the time, but I think it's meaningful. For me, when you are in a stage of maybe calmness or preparation, maybe you don't even know yet what you're preparing for, right? You just know that you're preparing for another step. My best friend, I will give a shout out to her for this next phrase I'm about to say. She calls it aggressive patience, where you are
Mm.
aggressively patient, right? Where you're waiting for maybe their next step. Maybe you're planting seeds. Maybe you're not ready to harvest those seeds yet, right? So, what does that look like? It is motion. I want to be very clear. It is still motion. So every day, whatever your consistent pattern is, it's very important for me every day to move my body, to have a clear mind in the morning, to take time for myself to write down my goals, being intentional and moving forward. I also love this analogy of, you can't be standing in a field holding a shovel and then asking God or the universe, whatever your spiritual perspective is, for a hole, right? And you can't do that. Like, I'm just going to stand here and I am just patiently waiting for a hole. And you have a shovel, right? And so, well, you know what? Let me just make some motions. Let me make that phone call. Let me set up for the interview. Let me just kind of go the extra mile at work and test something out here. Whatever it looks like, you can be aggressively patient. You can be moving intentionally, consistently, in those ways every single day, digging the hole. And I like to add on the end, sometimes you'll find yourself, you're digging the hole, you're being patient, you're like, okay, I'm not going to just ask for it, I'm going to start digging. And then an
Yeah.
excavation crew shows up and you're like, oh my gosh, thank you, yes, now I have help, now I understand why I was doing this. I inspired somebody to come join me, and now we're together
Right.
doing this, right? And so for me, I just think the message, and I will say, I have to say, shout out again to Marie for this, saying aggressive patience. It is so key and it's so important. And I love the visual of it, because you can be in motion, you can be patient while you're preparing, but know that something big is coming, and act that way every single day, every single day.
That is so powerful. Aggressive patience, where you are, even though you are patient, but you are in motion. You're not standing
Yes.
and waiting for a miracle. You are learning. You are doing whatever is in front of you. You take your shovel and you dig in, and hopefully another person joins you. Another person joins you, or you just keep digging, and who knows what you're gonna find.
That's right. That's right. I love that. Oh my gosh. I'll have to add that on to the end of that analogy, because that's great. Because you're either, like you said, folks are going to show up, or you're going to find something amazing that you had no idea, but it's that intention every day. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Mandy, I could talk to you for hours on end. I could. Hopefully, we can do this another time. But before we end this conversation, my viewers, they send me a message. They send me messages, and so I have a question. Some of them are questions. Some are just like comments on the show. So this question is from a cardiothoracic surgeon in the UK,
Okay.
and he's a guy. But I
Love
think
it.
whatever principles we talk about, it cuts across
Mm,
all genders. Just that
yes.
women, I believe the field was not designed for us. So we're
Mm,
learning how to thrive in an environment that was not designed for us from the beginning.
yes.
And I also do not think I am in competition with any man. Men are different. I don't want to be a man. I love being a woman. Every day I'm thankful to God for making me a woman. I love it. Zero pressure in life. We have our pressures, but it's different. I just love being a woman.
Yes.
So this question is from this cardiothoracic surgeon in the UK, and his question was how to get unstuck.
Mm,
However, I wanted to add more. I had to make that question a little bit bigger.
yes.
So first of all, how do you know you're stuck? And then if you can identify that you're stuck, how do you get unstuck?
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think first of all, when you're stuck of sorts, when folks have felt like they're stuck, I think we all have maybe felt that way in our life. It doesn't just have to be your career, right? You can feel like you're just spinning in a way, like, am I going anywhere? Am I moving forward? Am I just existing? And I will answer from a perspective too, as a woman, and I agree, it's a beautiful thing to be. As a mom, a lot of times, right? You can feel a little overwhelmed or stuck, like, am I just doing these things and not able to move forward? But I do think that that is sort of a nudge, like a God wink to us, to say you're not in the right space. There's a reason we're feeling stuck. It's okay to feel that way. I want to first give everyone permission. I think that's such a negative connotation. Like, people feel like, I feel stuck. I feel stuck in my career. I feel stuck in this relationship. I feel stuck in this friendship. Whatever it is, right? I feel stuck. It's okay to feel stuck. It's just your body. It's just a way of noting to you, hey, there needs to be a change here. There needs to be a change here. And that is a beautiful thing. And so that's when you can start doing the self-exploration. Let's take a cardiothoracic surgeon asking that question. There's so many people who think, what would you feel stuck about? You have an amazing
I know, like
career.
he's super accomplished.
You're so accomplished, right? You're doing all these things. And truthfully, and that is true, and that's amazing. But if he, like many people, you're getting up every day, you're going to work, you're showing up in front of folks, you're saying the same things, you're diagnosing the same things, right? You're going through these patterns, and it doesn't even matter, whatever level you're at in life, even, the most famous or successful people are going to have that same inquiry of why? What am I doing here? What is my purpose? It's human nature to feel that way, right? So when we have this idea of stuckness, I'm stuck, that's okay. First of all, cool, you're stuck. So what does that mean? That means you might need to make a change. So what is that change? So for me, getting unstuck means self-evaluation. taking some time. And I will go back to always love to use the shining the light in the dark place. That is my thing. Let's start shining that light, doing some self inquiry, taking a step back. Maybe you take some time to evaluate. Gosh, what am I really doing? Like, do I enjoy this? Dr. Gloria, you're the best example of this. You are such an accomplished physician. You are out there in the clinics and you're caring for patients. And you said, hey, you know what? I feel like I'm on a little bit of a loop here. I have a calling. I have a gift to share with so many people. I need to mentor and encourage and lead and speak. And you got unstuck from that feeling,
I
right? It
did.
is such a, is you are the best example of getting unstuck. You made a
Thank
different
you.
decision. You shined a light for yourself. You said, what is it? What is it? You had that self inquiry, but the important thing is you took action. You made a change. You
Yes.
took that leap and you were not afraid. And I feel like folks always say, like, you don't have to be afraid. Don't worry about being afraid. You're going to be afraid. I also want to just say that about folks who might be feeling stuck, and we're encouraging them to take a leap or take a change or do the inquiries to yourself. You will feel afraid, and know that it's okay to do it anyway, to
Yeah.
keep taking that step, right? And then you will not feel stuck. And not only will you not feel stuck, you will feel empowered and you'll go, oh, I can do that. I can do this. Like, I can do anything, right? So I think that that would be my best advice, right? Is the self evaluation. First of all, give yourself grace. It's okay if you feel stuck. Now, why? Something is telling you there needs to be a change. What is that? And don't be afraid to make it. And I mean dramatically, no matter what it is.
I think that's a great answer because you feel stuck for a reason. You said it's like God winking at you, telling you,
Hey,
I like
yes, yes. Like, hey,
that.
something's there. You're gonna need to make a change. And so just kind of reframing that as like, hey, it's a nudge. It's there's a reason for that feeling and that it's okay. Just make the change.
Thank you so much, Mandy. So you are a life coach. So are you? So tell me about that. Just talk to my audience about what you do.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, so I'm a life coach and health coach certified. I do like to focus on career. I realized after I got a double certification that I really enjoyed the life portion of coaching. So I'm definitely available. I have a program that we follow, and we do explore a lot of your why behind the why. So it was nice to talk about that today with you. It is, again, my calling. And so while I'm working on my career, I thought, I'm going to get certified in something that I already do naturally. And I'm sure you can relate to that. I already do, as I was telling you, in my career and the folks I reach out to. So when somebody's really interested in doing a deeper dive, I work with them, and we work together 6 weeks, sometimes longer, and really exploring, actually getting unstuck as part of the conversation. Because once you start uncovering maybe what's holding you back, what is the why underneath your why, how do I move forward from this? It really actually gets you unstuck, recognizing that these small incremental changes, that small hinges swing really big doors. We can make big differences. So yeah, so super passionate about that. Enjoy doing that as well. It's something that I'm still building up, right, as far as like really a full on business. So I appreciate the conversation today and just letting folks know. Yeah.
So where can folks find you?
So they can find me on LinkedIn for sure. I have all of my contact information there. So please go to my LinkedIn page. If we can share that with the group. I'll of course be sharing this wonderful podcast and
Yeah, I'll add
conversation
that to the show
today.
notes.
Yes.
I'll add your
Yes,
details to the show
absolutely.
notes.
So yeah, so all my contact information is there. That's where I'm most regularly checking in and networking and having other opportunities such as this amazing opportunity today to have a conversation with you.
So if you can give, so if for someone who for some reason just fast forwards this conversation to the last part, so what word of encouragement do you have for my listeners today before we round up?
Yes. So the best word of encouragement for all of the listeners out there, men and women, but I am talking to my women, is to bet on yourself. And I cannot
Mm,
say that enough. I cannot say that strongly enough, to bet on yourself every time. If you're thinking about making that change, if you're thinking about taking that chance, if you're thinking about starting a new career, if you're thinking about starting a workout routine, if you're thinking about that you are worthy of every single decision, and to bet on yourself every single time, because you are all you're going to have throughout your entire life. Folks are going to come and go, but you are always going to have you. And so to love on yourself, to pour into yourself, to know your worth, and to bet on yourself every time.
What a wonderful way to end the show. So I think our last words for our listeners is for you to bet
Mm,
on yourself. Whatever journey you're on, whatever decisions you are in the process of making, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, but always bet on
always.
yourself. Thank you so much for joining us, Mandy. I have thoroughly enjoyed talking
Thank
to
you. You
you.
too. I appreciate your time. Best of luck. Thank
Thank you so
you.
much. Bye bye.